Welcome to Hafi Galaxy Tales. If you love epic sci-fi stories where humanity shines, you're in the right place. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for thrilling HFY adventures. Join us and be part of the journey. The Capture the Night. Over the alien ocean was calm. The twin moons hung low in the sky, bathing the water in soft silver light. Waves rolled gently across the endless blue, carrying the sweet scent of the deep. Far below the surface, a shape moved, graceful, smooth, and full of life. Her name was Lyra. She was unlike anything humans had ever known. Her tail shimmered like polished silver scales, catching and reflecting the moonlight even under the waves. Her long dark hair flowed around her like ribbons of night. Her eyes glowed faintly, the way some deep-sea creatures hold their own light, and when she sang, the ocean seemed to pause and listen. Her voice could calm storms, charm the fiercest predators, and bring peace to even the wildest heart. But Lyra was not just beautiful, she carried a secret. Her tears were not like human tears. One drop could heal a broken body, cure deadly sickness, even pull someone back from the edge of death. For centuries, her people had guarded this secret, hiding in the farthest parts of the ocean. Safe from outsiders, that night, she swam near the surface, watching the moons. She loved these moments of quiet, the cool water, the soft breeze above, the shining light of the stars. But then, she saw it, a strange light in the distance, cutting through the darkness. It was not the light of the moons or the glow of any sea creature. It was sharp, steady, and moving closer. Her heart quickened. She sank deeper, her eyes locked on the source. Out of the shadows, a shape appeared. It was huge, made of metal, and unlike anything she had ever seen. It hummed with power, its surface covered with blinking lights. This was no fishing vessel, no ship of her people. It was human technology. Lyra had heard the warnings. Her elders had spoken of strange beings from the stars, who traveled in great machines and took what they wanted. Some said humans were explorers, others called them hunters. But everyone agreed, if you see them, you run. She turned, her tail slicing through the water as she swam toward the safety of the deep. But the ship followed, its lights scanning the waves like the eyes of a predator. Then it happened. A sudden burst of energy shot from the side of the vessel. It spread out like a glowing net, bright as fire under the water. The net moved faster than she could swim. It wrapped around her body, burning where it touched her scales. She struggled, twisting and kicking. Her tail lashed, her claws tore at the glowing strands. But it was no use. The net tightened, pulling her upward. She screamed, her voice echoing through the water. But her song, once so powerful, could not break the grip of human technology. The surface broke around her as she was dragged from the safety of the ocean. Cold air hit her face. The world above was loud, the roar of engines, the hiss of machines, the murmur of human voices. She gasped, water dripping from her hair and scales. Dozens of eyes stared at her from behind glass helmets. The humans spoke to each other in fast, sharp tones she didn't understand. One of them stepped forward, taller than the rest, wearing a dark uniform with silver markings. His visor reflected her face back at her, a frightened creature caught like prey. Through his helmet speaker, his voice came out deep and certain. "We have her," he said. Lyra's heart pounded. She had no idea where they were taking her. She only knew that her freedom was slipping away with every second. The humans moved quickly, lifting her into a container filled with water. She slammed her hands against the walls, but they were unbreakable. The lid sealed above her, shutting out the night sky. Then came the sound she feared most, the deep, heavy hum of engines rising. The vessel shook. The stars outside the small window began to drift. She realized, with growing horror, that they were not just leaving the ocean, they were leaving her world. The moons faded from sight, replaced by the black void of space. Her home, her people, her freedom, all were far below, lost in the deep blue she would never touch again. Lyra pressed her forehead to the glass, her breath fogging the surface. A single tear slid down her cheek. It fell into the water at her feet, glowing faintly before fading away. Outside her tank, the humans celebrated quietly. They had captured a treasure beyond any they had known. But for Lyra, the night that had begun in peace had ended in chains, and she had no way of knowing the terrible price her tears would soon demand. The prison beneath the stars. Lyra woke slowly. Her head felt heavy, and her body ached as if the ocean itself had pressed down on her. When her vision cleared, she realized she was no longer in her world. She floated in a round glass chamber filled with cold, artificial water. The water was clean, But it had no life in it, no smell of salt, no hum of sea creatures. It felt empty, dead. She swam slowly to the edge and pressed her hand against the glass. It was smooth and hard, like the walls of a pearl, but colder. Beyond it, she saw shadows moving, tall shapes in white suits, with shining helmets. They watched her like scientists studying a rare animal. Some wrote on glowing screens, others pointed at her and spoke in quick voices. Then she saw something that made her heart twist. Through a small window above them, there was no blue sky, no shining moons, only darkness. Black space stretched endlessly, sprinkled with faraway stars. Her chest tightened as the truth sank in. She was far from her ocean, far from her home. The humans had taken her into the sky. A door hissed open, and the tall man in the dark uniform stepped inside. She recognized his voice, the same one who had said, "We have her on the ship." His helmet was off now, showing his sharp face and cold, pale eyes. He studied her for a moment before speaking. "We only need one thing from you," he said, slowly, as if speaking to a child. "Your tears." Lyra froze. Tears? Why would they want her tears? She thought of the stories told by her people, of hunters who took what they desired, of outsiders who saw life as something to be traded and sold. Her tears were a gift meant for the dying, the wounded, the desperate, but in the wrong hands, they could become something dangerous. The man signaled. And a wall behind her chamber shifted. A bed on wheels rolled forward, carrying a small human child. The boy's skin was pale, his breathing weak. Wires ran from his body to glowing machines that beeped softly. The man looked at her again. "He is dying," he said. "Your tear can save him." Lyra's heart ached. Even if these humans had stolen her freedom, she could not watch a child die. She swam closer to the glass, placing her hand against it. Her eyes filled as she looked at the boy's fragile form. A single tear slid down her cheek and into the water. Before it could fade, a small device entered her chamber, catching the glowing drop in a crystal vial. The man took the vial and poured the tear into the boy's mouth. Moments passed, and then the boy's eyes opened, color returned to his cheeks, and his small voice whispered something she could not understand. The humans around her smiled, nodding in victory, but Lyra did not share their joy. She realized in that moment what they truly wanted. If one tear could heal, then many tears could be sold for power, for wealth, for control, and they would not stop until she had nothing left to give. Outside her chamber, the tall man turned to his crew. "Prepare the next patient," he ordered. Lyra sank to the bottom of her prison. Her hair floated around her. Like dark smoke, she wrapped her arms around herself, trying to hold on to the last pieces of warmth she had. Far beyond the glass, space stretched forever, cold, silent, and without mercy, and somewhere deep inside her, a thought began to grow. If they had stolen her freedom for a drop of her tears, then she would find a way to make them regret it. The first tears priced. The boy's soft breathing filled the silent chamber. He was alive again, his small fingers curling weakly. The humans smiled, some even clapped. But Lyra's gaze stayed fixed on the crystal vial that had taken her tear. In her heart, she felt an emptiness she had never known before. It was not just a tear, it was a piece of herself, given away. The tall man in the dark uniform stepped closer to the glass. His cold eyes studied her. "You see? You can save lives," he said, "and you will." His words carried no kindness. They were not a request, they were an order. Lyra's hands curled into fists. She wanted to tell him that healing was sacred, that it was never meant to be forced, but her voice would not reach him through the glass. Hours passed. The boy was taken away. The lights in the room dimmed, but Lyra could not sleep. She kept thinking about his smile, and about the way the humans had looked at her, not with gratitude, but with hunger. The next day, they brought another. This time it was not a child, but a soldier in armor. A deep wound cut across his chest. Blood floated in the air before being caught by machines. Lyra hesitated. She did not know if this man was good or evil, but she saw pain in his eyes. Her heart weakened, and another tear fell. It was caught, taken, and poured into the soldier's mouth. Within minutes, the wound vanished. The soldier sat up, saluted the tall man, and walked away without even looking at her. Day after day, it continued. The faces blurred together, old, young, wounded, sick. Every tear she gave left her feeling weaker, but slowly, she began to notice something. Some of those she healed returned wearing weapons. They were not victims anymore, they were fighters, and they carried the same black and silver mark as the tall man. Lyra's chest tightened. Her gift was not being used only to save lives, it was being used to make soldiers stronger. to send them back into war. One evening, when the room was empty except for a single guard, she swam to the edge of her prison. The guard was young, his helmet off, his eyes curious but not cruel. "Why do you do this?" she asked softly. Her voice reached him through the water's surface. He hesitated. "Orders," he said simply. "Your tears are worth more than any treasure in the galaxy." Lyra sank back down. She now understood the price of her first tear. It had bought her nothing but chains, and the more she gave, the tighter those chains would grow. She pressed her palm against the glass. Somewhere far beyond this prison, her ocean still sang under the moons, and deep inside her, a new thought began to take shape. If her tears were so valuable, then maybe they could also be her weapon. The endless demand. The days blurred into one another. In the beginning, Lyra counted how many times they came for her, how many faces she saw, but soon there were too many to remember. The chamber lights would turn bright, and the next patient would arrive. Old men with trembling hands, young soldiers with blood still on their armor, leaders with cold eyes, all of them desperate for one thing, her tears. They came with stories. Some begged for help, some lied, pretending to be victims, but Lyra began to see the truth in their eyes. Many of them were not innocent. She healed warriors who returned the next day with new scars. She healed officers who left smiling and returned holding weapons. Her tears were not ending battles, they were fueling them. At first, she resisted. She refused to cry, keeping her heart cold. The humans tried everything. They played sad music, showed her sick children, even threatened her with pain. But her people had taught her control. She would not give them what they wanted, Then they changed their method. They brought the wounded into her chamber itself. She could smell the blood in the water, hear the labored breaths. One soldier floated before her, his eyes wide with fear. She felt her chest tighten. She knew, if she did nothing, he would die in front of her. A tear slipped free. The humans caught it instantly, and so the cycle continued. Tear after tear, life after life, each drop taken, stored in crystal vials. She noticed the vials were never thrown away. They were locked in cases and carried out by guards with heavy weapons. Sometimes entire crates were filled before the ship even changed course. One night, when the room was quiet, Lyra pressed her face to the glass and watched the stars drift by. She wondered how far they had taken her, how many worlds now had her tears, and how many of those worlds used them for kindness, or for war. Her body felt weaker now, her scales had lost some of their glow, but her mind was sharper than ever. She had learned something. The humans wanted her to be hopeless. They wanted her to think escape was impossible, but she also knew one thing. Even the strongest prison has a door, and somewhere in this ship, hers was waiting to be found. She decided then the next time they came for her tears, she would give them more than they expected, not just sorrow, but a reason to fear her. The human Aletha hum of the ship's engines was the only sound in the chamber. Lyra floated near the bottom, her eyes half closed, her mind heavy with exhaustion. She had given too many tears in too few days. Her scales no longer shone like silver, they looked dull under the cold lights. The door to the control room hissed open. Footsteps approached, but they were lighter than the commanders or the guards. Lyra lifted her head. A young man stood outside the glass. His uniform was different. No silver marks, no weapon on his side. He carried a small toolkit in one hand. He didn't stare at her the way the others did. His gaze was curious, almost cautious. "I'm here to check the water filtration system," he said, his voice quiet. Lyra didn't answer. She had learned that talking to humans often led to nothing but pain. He moved closer. Kneeling by the base of her chamber, "My name is Evan," he added, as if offering a gift. She studied him. His hair was messy, his face tired, but there was something in his eyes, something human in a way the others had lost. As he worked, he spoke again. "I've been on this ship for 6 months, he said softly. "I've seen what they do to you." Lyra's tail flicked in the water, and she asked, her voice low. "And I don't think it's right," he replied, glancing over his shoulder to make sure no one was listening. For the first time in what felt like forever, Lyra felt a small spark of hope, but hope was dangerous. "Why are you telling me this?" she asked. Evan hesitated, his hand resting on the glass. "Because I think I can help you escape." The words hung in the air like a current waiting to pull her under. Lyra searched his face for signs of a lie. She found only fear and determination, but trust was not something she could give easily anymore. "Why would you risk yourself for me?" she demanded. He looked down. "Because when I first joined this ship, I thought we were helping people," he said. "Now I see we're just using you." and I can't be part of it anymore. He stood, glancing at the door. I'll come back when it's safe, he whispered, then he was gone. Leaving Lyra alone again with the cold hum of the ship, she floated in silence. Her mind torn between suspicion and curiosity. Was he truly an ally? Or just another way for the humans to control her? Still, for the first time since she was taken, she found herself waiting, not for the next tear to be taken, but for the sound of those lighter footsteps to return. The escape plan 3 days passed before Evan returned. Lyra had begun to wonder if he had lied. But then, one quiet night cycle, the door hissed open and those same light footsteps approached. Evan stepped into the control room, his toolkit in one hand, his eyes scanning the shadows. No one followed me, he whispered, placing a small device on the console. It gave a faint hum, and the distant camera lens in the corner turned black. That will blind their surveillance for 5 minutes, he said. Lyra swam closer to the glass. You have 5 minutes to explain, she told him. Evan leaned close. In 2 rotations. The ship will pass near a neutral colony, a free station where the commander's authority means nothing. His voice was low and urgent. If we can get you onto an escape pod, they can't legally take you back. Lyra's heart thudded. Freedom was so close she could almost taste the salt of her home waters again. But she kept her voice steady. And how will we get past the guards? Evan opened his toolkit and showed her a small black card. This overrides the chamber's lock for 60 seconds, he said. Enough time to get you into a pod. But, he hesitated. The pods are built for air breathers, not for someone like you. Lyra frowned. So I die in space instead of in here. Not if I modify it, Evan replied quickly. I can reroute one of the water storage tanks into the pod, give you a sealed environment for the jump. For a moment, silence hung between them. The plan was dangerous. One mistake and she would be lost in the black void forever. But the thought of staying in this prison until her body gave out was worse. Why are you doing this? She asked again. Evan's jaw tightened. Because my sister was like you, he said. Not a mermaid, but different, unique, and the system took her. I couldn't save her. Maybe I can save you. Before Lyra could answer, the chamber lights flickered. A warning. Time's up, Evan said, grabbing his toolkit. 2 rotations. Be ready. The door slid shut behind him. Lyra floated in the dim light, her mind racing. Was this truly her chance? Or was she walking into a trap carefully designed to break her? She looked at her reflection in the glass. Her eyes no longer held only sorrow. There was something new there now. A sharpness, a readiness. If Evan was lying, she would find out. If he was telling the truth, she would be free. Freedom or death. The ship's artificial night cycle bathed the corridors in dim blue light. Lyra floated in her prison, counting the seconds. Every sound outside made her tail flick with nervous energy. The moment had come. 2 rotations had passed. If Evan was telling the truth, tonight she would either be free, or gone forever. The door hissed open, and there he was. No hesitation, no toolkit this time, only the black override card clutched in his hand. No talking, he whispered. Follow exactly what I say. He slid the card into the lock. A sharp click echoed. For the first time since her capture, the glass wall of her chamber split open with a hiss of released pressure. Cold air rushed in, and Lyra pushed herself forward. The water trailed from her skin as her tail hit the metal floor. Her body felt heavy out of water, but she forced herself to move. They ran, Evan in front. Lyra close behind, her wet tail dragging, but steady. The hallway was eerily empty, too empty. Her instincts screamed that something was wrong. Halfway to the escape deck, a siren blared. They know, Evan hissed, from the far end of the corridor. Armored guards burst into view, weapons raised. Evan shoved a small cylinder into Lyra's hands. Break it if they get too close, he said. It's a flash charge, it will blind them for 5 seconds. They reached the launch bay. Rows of pods lined the wall, each locked behind a heavy security gate. Evan sprinted to a console, his fingers flying over the controls. The gate shuddered and began to rise, but behind them, boots pounded on metal. Getting closer. Go, Evan yelled, pulling open the pod door. Inside, Lyra saw the sealed water tank he had promised. It glistened like a piece of her ocean in the middle of the steel chamber. She slid inside, her body instantly feeling lighter. Evan reached in and locked the restraints. Once you land, head for the colony lights, he said. Don't stop for anyone. The guards were almost there. The commander's voice boomed through the bay. Step away from the creature, Evan. Evan slammed his palm on the launch control. The pod doors sealed with a deep thud, Through the small viewport, Lyra saw him turn to face the guards. She couldn't hear his words, but his mouth formed one final sentence: run. The pod jolted, then shot forward with crushing force. Through the viewport, the walls of the bay vanished, replaced by the endless black of space. Stars spun past, and the hum of the pod filled her ears. Her heart pounded. Was Evan still alive? Would the colony accept her? Would this pod even make it? The water inside shimmered around her, lit by the glow of distant suns. A single tear slipped from her eye, not of sorrow this time, but of defiance. She was no longer the prisoner they had captured, she was the survivor they had made, far behind her. The human ship became just another speck of light in the endless dark. Ahead, freedom waited, if she could reach it.